Well. Here we are on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. We're not even 2 seconds into the show, and Clarkey's already got furnace face. He's upset.
No, I'm not upset. Well, I'm
Jays
upset. I'm not
Nation.
mad. I'm upset.
No, yeah, Blue Jays Nation upset. What a soul-crushing, heartbreaking, gut-punching, nut-kicking loss that we are going to be talking about for a long time in this country. And when we want to talk about in-depth baseball stuff, we have a guy that we like to bring on here. And I wish we were bringing on this guy to talk about something that would have been very exciting to cover. Longtime Blue Jays beat reporter with the Toronto Sun, our friend and yours, Mr. Rob Longley. Longley, what can you say about what just occurred last Saturday? Because I'm out of adjectives to describe the feelings in this country right now. What did you see on the scene of the crime?
Oh man, it's still so hard to unpack it and digest it. I mean, I was thinking about this today. It almost would have been better if they would have lost in 5 or 6 games, even getting blown out somehow. And then you could say, hey, we made it to the World Series. What a great year. Last to first, something to build on. But then to get to within 2 outs of winning it and then having so many opportunities from the ninth inning on and just not finding a way to get it done. So like almost every imaginable thing went against them. It's a lot to digest. I was at the season-ending press conference today, and Mark Shapiro, like, he was very emotional, which is not like him. He's the sort of the consummate businessman, the Blue Jays president. And he said as he was walking from his office to the press conference room in the basement of the Rogers Center, it was the first time he looked at the field. It was the first time he could bear to look at the field since Saturday night. That's how painful it was still for everybody. You start to watch the highlights and you think about the what ifs, and there's so many what ifs that could have gone in the Blue Jays' favor that all they needed was one of them. It really is a difficult finality, a difficult result to rationalize and wrap your head around.
It really is. This image here was posted on social media by a Jays fan. We saw a lot of these. Just a dad on the stairs, man. And I think we're all that dad on the stairs after watching that. And, amongst the, like you said, many highlights and images that came out of Saturday, it's hard to find a place to start. But I think what we could do is start with Game 6 and the Barger hit that ends up under the wall. A lot of people didn't know the rule, still refuse to accept the rule. And a lot of people that do know the rule didn't like the way it was utilized or called in this scenario. That ball getting stuck under that piece of padding, like, you want to talk about an all-time piece of bad luck. I mean, what on earth, Longley? Like, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it really was. I spent a fair bit of time after that game talking to two guys who know a little bit about playing center field and outfield, Miles Straw and Dalton Varsho. And, to their credit, they both acknowledged that the rule was it was ruled absolutely correctly. The umpires got the call in the field right. Like at Varsho especially, like he spends a lot of time sort of trying to figure out how balls are going to play off of that wall, how he's going to defend them, and basically said that it had to come. There's only one way, and it would have had to come at that exact angle, that exact trajectory, at that exact speed, at that exact time. And even then, he couldn't believe that it happened. So you want to talk about the ultimate bit of bad luck? That was it right there. Really, hindsight shows us that there was much more of that to come. But for that to happen, even even the Dodgers outfielders played it correctly, because if the one guy hadn't gone and put his hands in the air to signal that the ball was lodged, and the other guy had picked it up, then it would have been considered a live ball, and then it would have been an inside the park home run at that point. So it's just it was a crazy, quirky play that happened, and the Jays never truly recovered from it, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think that rule needs to be amended, or is that the right rule? Like, is that the right call? Like, you don't want a guy to get hurt. I guess that's why.
Well, the ball's lodged, right? I mean, it's like, think of it if it lands in the ivy at Wrigley Field, or stuck in the grating in the Green Monster at Fenway. I guess the rule has to be in place to be consistent from ballpark to ballpark, and we've just never seen it lodged like that anywhere at the Rogers Center. It's just it's a new wall. That wall's only been there for 2 years. And it's hard to the surface. I guess there just has to be a little bit of give at the bottom of the wall, and somehow the ball lodged in there. Barely, but it did.
That wall's getting fired. That wall is getting fired. They're changing that. Just a strange thing. And every park has to kind of have a interpretation, I guess, if you will, of the rule for the different layouts of the parks. All the parks are different. All the parks have different walls, and they all have certain rules for what in their building constitutes as a lodged ball. You move on from that into Game 7, and guys, like Clarkey, I don't know how much you want to go through it, because the majority of the game we don't really need to go over. The Jays were winning for 99.98% of the game. When Bo hit that home run, the biggest offensive moment of the game, everybody's feeling pretty good. This really all comes down to the last couple innings, and it starts in the 9th with Jeff Hoffman. God bless the poor guy. Like, he comes out after the game and looks like, he ran over a family's dog or something. Like, the guy couldn't have felt worse. I felt terrible for him. And he said, I cost this team a World Series ring, and you just feel for the guy because he was so good in October. He gives up a game tying tater to the 9-hole hitter, Longley. And I mean, that set the stage for what I would call a series of really unfortunate events.
Yeah, there were so many opportunities, right? The Jays still had plenty of chances to win it. And, you had to feel a little bit for Hoffman. I'm not sure why he decided it. Hanging a slider on the plate at that point it was a full count. He had to put something across the plate, and this guy never hits home runs. He doesn't hit for power at all. So I guess he figured the worst thing that was going to happen he might hit a single or something like that. And the guy hits it's the hardest hit ball of his career, 105 miles an hour. How does that even happen in that situation? Interestingly, today, by the way, Ross Atkins was asked if Hoffman was going to be the closer next year, and he didn't exactly give him a ringing endorsement. He said that Jeff is open to other opportunities with the team if it comes to that. In other words, sounds to me like they're going to explore other potential avenues, which I found was not quite throwing him under the bus, but it was sort of an interesting response. But yeah, once that happened, there was still so much more crazy to happen.
There really was. And going to the bottom of the 9th, and I didn't notice the lead that Falefa didn't get while it was happening.
Kind of Falefa, yeah. Carlos Fadeless, I want to say this, Clarkey. You're breaking down the play of the game. You're breaking down the play of the game. IKF getting thrown on the force out at home, and Dan and Buck gave everybody a little sliver of hope. There's a little sliver of hope there. Oh, his foot came off.
It did come off.
And it did, but he got it back down.
It was the right call. There's no doubt it was the right call.
No, for sure.
My question is, should he have a bigger lead, and should he have run through the base or dive head first? To me, the slide is the slowest way to go.
Yeah, that was the issue I had. I didn't have a huge problem with the lead. I know a lot of people do. If he was just a fraction further, then maybe he makes it. But you can't afford getting doubled off in that situation either, right? And the infield was in. A line drive anywhere in the infield, there's a reasonable chance that he gets picked off or backpicked by the catcher too.
And I think the Barger play the day before was playing on their mind on that.
Yeah, but even if it wasn't, it was still the correct way to go. Now, why he slid, I'll never know, because it's just an automatic deceleration. And he started that slide, if you watch it again, a little bit earlier than you normally need to. Yeah. You run through the plate, you've got a better chance of beating it. You certainly would have beat it. You would have beat the initial foot coming off the plate part of that play. But you don't slide in that situation. You don't slide in a force out. If you do, it's sort of head first, hands extended, and a late slide. And he didn't do that. Now, is that just the way that IKF does it all the time? Should Carlos Fablis have reminded him at that point that run through the plate? It's a force out. IKF's a pretty smart guy, pretty smart base runner. Was it a brain cramp on his part, or does he firmly believe that that's the best way to do it?
My theory on that was when Will Smith was setting up to catch the ball, his left foot was across the baseline. And when Falefa started his slide, that's when Will Smith's foot moved away from blocking the plate. And I think he thought he was going to trip or hit him or whatever if he had to run through. And I don't know. We obviously don't have the video to show here today, but you can look at it. That foot moved, and of course, I'm looking for reasons why that should be overturned. Right. Was he blocking the plate on that? That was never discussed, and probably
no. I don't know if he was. That's a good question. I mean, even still, though, it's like there's so much on the line. You can't be trying for a trick ruling at that point.
Well, can you believe? Can you imagine if that had been reversed and they won the? Because it could have been that was that close to being reversed when his foot came off the bag. But that's my theory of why he slid, because he saw that foot there and didn't think he could get across without falling.
You know what the most insane part would have been, though, had they called it safe. And all the confetti would have gone all through the stadium, and then overturned it. Can you imagine if that would have been the case? That would have been the craziest.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think they could have done that in that situation. Well, I mean, that harkens back. Well, but the league, I think, would not have wanted to deal with that.
Of course not. But they would have got the call right.
They had to get the call right. Yeah. Whatever they did, right?
Foot in the crease.
Do they? Talk to Gary Bettman about that. Ask people in Buffalo, New York, if they need to get the call right.
Well,
that's just not true. Would have. Now we're talking about an insane hypothetical here. I ultimately don't think he was blocking the plate. He had his foot too far inside the plate to have it be considered blocking. IKF had fair play at that plate. If you watch the video, Carlos Fablis says to him that he points at Muncy, because the general rule is that guys take the same lead as the defender. Yeah. He did that, and it's going to be a play that's talked about forever because it was a fingernail away from being a World Series winning play.
Yeah.
Ultimately, after that, I think what we're going to talk about for a long time is in game 6 and 7 with runners in scoring position, as much as people are going to blame Jeff Hoffman and blame Savage for the other home run that was given up and blame IKF and this and that.
Bieber.
And Bieber too. In game 6 and 7, this team hit 154 with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
They were 4 for 26. And we saw ups and downs from this offense. They were a very disciplined team at the plate, didn't strike out a lot. However, they would hit cold patches where it just wasn't there. And that's ultimately what I'll remember is that stat, 4 for 26 with runners in scoring position against the Dodgers team that you kept giving life to. That's just not going to play. And I think ultimately this will be the image that sticks with me too here and Vlad, man, did he put together probably the greatest postseason run by an athlete we've seen in Toronto sports history. It was just crushing to see this guy standing there by himself, I don't know, man. Like it's just that dude put this team on his back, and to see it end like this for him, it just feels wholly unfair.
Yeah, and even in the 11th inning, right, with the base hit and the double rather to lead it off. It's like
Mhm.
he was almost like he was willing it to happen. Um, it was, yeah, it really was an amazing October for him. And if had they won, we would be talking about that. We'd be calling him like the modern day Mr. October. People would be likening it to Reggie Jackson in some ways. The original Mr. October. I suppose that bodes well for the team going forward, but it's
Mm.
also it also makes you rue what happened even more because
Yeah.
you really have to wonder, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but you really have to wonder how easy it's going to be to run, and what are the prospects for them to run it back to get to this point again.
We will talk about that, but I want to keep talking about the 11th inning and Vladdy getting that leadoff double. I was calling for the bunt right away. I thought for
Yeah, I
sure
didn't
they were
mind
going to
that.
bunt him over. Tom Volk, who we've had on this show before, who's a baseball expert and a coach and everything, he
Mhm.
said at the time, "Do not bunt this guy over. Don't give them an out."
Yeah.
And then he went on afterwards how you should never give him an out. You didn't have a problem with it either, did you?
Not really, no. It's funny though because like basically in his entire life until this year, Jays manager John Schneider has been anti-bunting,
I
right?
know.
But he's been consistently using it this year, and
Yep.
he's come around to its value. I guess the analytics folks have convinced him that it's appropriate at times, and you
Mhm.
know, in situations like that all season long, he's hasn't been shy to use it. And if you're going to accept the sacrifice bunt as a tool,
Mhm.
it was used to perfection in that situation, right? So
Mhm.
uh, you got the
Just didn't
guy on
work out.
third with one out.
Yeah.
It's right there for you. You should be able to win a ball game.
Yeah, with Barger and Kirk coming
You
up for
should.
Yeah.
sure.
You should. It's man, like the ups and downs that we're gonna be dissecting for a long time. It's just insane. Clarkey, I want to start with you on this. I mean, is this the worst one? Like, where's this rank in terms of Toronto sports loss? Is this the worst one? I think
Yeah.
it has to be. I think
Yeah,
it has to be.
well, there's no doubt it's the worst one in Jay's history. It's the only one that comes close. Well, two, I
Is
guess, at
90?
least.
Yeah,
Well, 93,
93.
but also blowing that lead to Boston too, back in
But that
whenever that
team
was. But that
wasn't good,
wasn't
and
the.
everyone knew
No, no,
that.
no, no, no. I know, but it was still a crushing blow to have that lead and lose the
Yeah,
game.
an insane loss,
But
yes.
no, for sure. Like I've watched highlights of this game 7 time and time again, and I don't know what's going through my mind, but I keep hoping that Kiner Falefa actually was safe, or those two guys colliding in the outfield, the ball drops. Like I keep waiting for that to happen, just thinking maybe I'm living a bad dream, but I'm
Yeah,
not, but I keep
yeah.
watching thinking like that collision in the outfield. Like, I don't know. I've watched a lot of baseball. 7 out of 10 times, I think that ball's dropping, but
You
it
guys
is
got to
Yeah.
not.
bear with me. You guys got
Yeah,
to
yeah.
bear with me for 10 seconds here.
No problem. We'll
I
keep
got
going.
some evidence. I got to show you something. You guys are
Okay.
going to howl at this.
Okay,
Wow.
perfect. You go get it.
Wow.
So,
I
like,
love it.
it's to me definitely the most crushing loss in Toronto
What's the
sports
common
history for sure.
denominator of these two game sevens we're talking about? Longley was in the building in Boston.
Oh,
This
no.
was the cover of our sports
Longley.
section in the Toronto Sun the next day. The next day, CSI Leafs,
Oh, that's so
and
funny.
I went through it, and this is what was it? So it was 18 minutes of, I don't know how closely you can see this, but
Yeah, yeah.
18 minutes of, I went through. This is about 1,500 words describing each painful play that happened that night, and I'm telling you, man. The stakes weren't nearly as high, obviously. And as you
No,
said, Ryan,
No.
the expectations weren't the same,
no.
but the calamity was the same, man. It
Yes.
was very similar. There were
Oh,
so many
yeah.
things that went wrong in each situation for the Maple Leafs to lose like that in 2013 and the Blue Jays to lose like that in 2025. But I mean, we're talking about a team that was two outs away from winning the World Series. So the stakes were dramatically higher. But it's Toronto sports, to your point.
It's Toronto sports, man.
It is. Sadly, it
Oh,
is. I mean,
God.
like, come on, like it's time. Like as much as I love my Toronto Argonauts, it's not the same. The
No.
Argos winning is not even near the same.
It's not Leon McQuay, as much as that was crazy. Clarkey and I are old enough to remember that.
Yeah,
I think on the other side, because you got to give the Dodgers their cookies, man. I mean, there are a lot of people that are saying they've ruined baseball and this, that, and the other.
The Jays were right there. And what I want to ask Rob is, did the better team win?
That's a good question. I would say that on paper, the better team won, but the team that played the best over 7 games in the World Series did not. The Blue Jays were the better team over those 7 games through almost all of the key statistical areas. The one notable one that you guys just talked about was runners in scoring position, and especially late in ball games. I got to thinking as you were mentioning it, Ryan. Obviously, they didn't come through late in Game 6 and Game 7. But, I mean, I was at Dodger Stadium for Game 3 when they went, 11 innings without scoring a run. I know the Dodgers didn't either, but there was opportunity after opportunity in that game. All you needed was one big hit, one clutch performance at some point down the stretch through that game. And I think John Schneider mentioned it afterwards. It almost felt like the Jays could have swept them.
If they win that
they played better.
Yeah, 100%. They win that one. And I mean, we're talking about a whole different setup here. Yeah. I think one thing too, that unfortunately, it is a common denominator with these crushing losses in Toronto sports history is there's a boogeyman that hovers over all of them.
Yeah.
That Leafs one, it was, Lucic and Bergeron. That 93 series, it was Kerry Fraser and his coiffed hair.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's this gentleman here at the center of this picture, and that's Yoshinobu Yamamoto. When LeBron James was going through all those years where he would dominate Toronto in the regular season and the playoffs, talking the Raptors, everybody called it LeBronto. And I am now christening this Yamamoto-ronto, because that's what this guy did to this team. Madison Bumgarner put together one of the greatest postseasons I've ever seen in 2014. I didn't think, and I don't think a lot of baseball fans ever thought that we would see somebody do something like that again. This guy won Game 2, 6, and 7 of the World Series, and that feels psycho to say that. What did he throw in Game 2? 114 pitches.
Yeah.
Then he throws 98 or 96 in Game 6 and wins that in dominant fashion. And then he comes in at the end to end Game 7. I can't believe the performance that we saw from this guy. And I was happy's maybe a strong word. I was in full agreement that he was MVP of that World Series, Rob. Like, have you ever seen something like that?
It was pure craziness. And you could argue that he got progressively worse in quotations as he went along. Game 2 was his real masterpiece in the World Series. Game 6, he was pretty darn good. In Game 7, there was a little bit of vulnerability there, but he's just like, how can you do that after a complete game or near complete game in Game 6 and come back the next night and go in and pitch 2 2/3 or whatever it was and win Game 7 of the World Series? It was just incredible. I mean, I would have liked to have seen the guy's arm the next day. Was it still attached to the socket? I don't know, but that'll be a performance, especially the Game 6 to Game 7 one. Actually, but Game 2 as well, because pitchers aren't allowed to throw complete games anymore, especially even in the regular season, but especially in the postseason, and almost never in the World Series. We may never see that again. And here that guy went out and did it in dominating fashion. He was easily the MVP.
Psycho stuff. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was.
The first guy since Kurt Schilling in 2001 to throw back-to-back complete games, because he did it against the Brewers too. Just absolutely nuts stuff.
Yeah.
Clarkey?
Well, I as much as I would love to keep reliving Game 6 and 7 because they were so good to Toronto, I want to know Rob. I want to know. I'm very concerned that we went into this season thinking this team was crap. We all said it on this show. Convince me that moving forward, this team is another World Series competitive team next year and the years to come. Like, I'm afraid this was their window, like Ernie Clement and like just unbelievable performances that we may never have again.
I'm not even going to try to convince you that that's a possibility. I mean, obviously it's a possibility, but it's the furthest thing from a sure thing that you could possibly have.
That's
I mean, how many guys on that team overachieved this year? It was wonderful. I mean, that's full credit to all of them. It's not a knock on anybody, not a knock on the front office, not a knock on any player individually. I mean, it's full credit to everybody who did what they did. And yes, they could come back and do the same thing next year. But they might not have Bo Bichette in the fold next year. They might not have Chris Bassett in the fold next year. They almost certainly won't have Max Scherzer in the fold next year. What's Trey Savage going to be? Is he going to be the guy that we saw for his 9 or 10 starts and be a shutdown kind of? He's only going to be 23 years old next year. He's probably going to be in the rotation. Who's their closer? Is Anthony Santander going to still be a complete bust? There's a lot of questions facing this team. Are they going to get Bichette back? I think that they're going to spend. Rogers is going to spend in free agency, as they should.
Do you think he wants to be back then?
Do I think Bo wants to be back? That's a very good question.
That's what I do.
I think we've talked about this. I've got to know Bo pretty well. I first met him when he was 17 or 18 years old, and he's like a pretty soft-spoken guy and pretty serious dude. I think part of him doesn't like the fact that he even got to free agency. I think that, his loyalty, if he has any, is it might be to Vladdy because they always dreamt of winning the World Series together. But I talked to like 3 or 4 guys after Game 7, and they're all like, good for Bo. We hope he's back. But I mean, baseball players are baseball players. They're like, he's a free agent. He's going to go get his money. If it happens to be from Rogers Communications and he comes back with the Jays, great. But they know that the reality of the business is he's going to play the field out there. And if there's an offer that he likes better, he's going to go take the money. There won't be a hometown discount.
No, there's no discount. And I really have a sick feeling for Jays fans that this guy's going to be an LA Dodger. I just think that the LA Dodgers are giving this guy 10 by 400. I really do. I woke up the day after the World Series and I had a dream about it. I had a dream that there was a press conference and it was like, unfortunately, we were not able to sign Bo Bichette. He's joining the LA Dodgers. And I would hope that he'd like to stay. I don't know. One guy that we know isn't staying, and this is a big loss, is Don Mattingly.
What happened there?
You want to talk about a guy that I felt bad for, like Donnie Baseball gets to his first World Series period and comes up on the wrong side of it, and he's not coming back as bench coach. And Rob, I'm sure you've been talking to people down there. Where did this kind of come from, and where are we going with this?
Hey, I just thought of something. We got a scapegoat. Donnie Baseball should have told Carlos Phoebus, the third base coach, to tell IKF to be 3 feet closer to third, the
offensive coordinator.
Yes, former offensive coordinator. He was just bench coach this year. So let's blame Donnie Baseball for the not big enough lead that IKF had. Now he's out of here. No, they said the people tell me that it was all Donnie Baseball's idea, that he enjoyed his time here and he wanted to explore other opportunities. You never know how this works, but I do know that John Schneider was like a huge fan of Donnie Baseball. He when he was a kid, like he had Don Mattingly posters in his room. He was a huge Yankees fan, and he was thrilled to have him as an assistant. And I really think that Don Mattingly helped John Schneider through years 2 and 3 of his time as manager here, just to sort of learn the intricacies of managing at the big league level. Excuse me. This year, I think Mattingly's role was a little bit less than it had been last year when he was the offensive coordinator, whatever that meant. It seemed to me anyway that Schneider relied more on DeMarlo Hale as his bench coach, or his assistant manager, as they called it. And Donnie was a little bit more in the background. So maybe Mattingly wants to go somewhere where he'll have a bit more of a bigger role. But it was kind of came out of the blue when that came down today, just before the press conferences.
Yeah, strange stuff. And One thing that we do know as well, and again, as Rob mentioned, we're chatting on Thursday, November 6th, the day that Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro met with everybody down there, and they did announce that they are picking up the option on John Schneider, and Ross said that there's potential for that to turn into a longer deal soon, which ultimately I think is something that this guy has earned. Like, I know that a lot of people weren't a fan of some of the tactics that he employed, tactics that I think many of us know were forced upon him by people upstairs. I think that the guy did an unbelievable job, and I love how raw he is. I love how honest and old school he is, and he stands up for his players, man. And I mean, I just think that this guy deserves this, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there's a good chance on Monday, I believe it is, when American League Manager of the Year is announced, that John Schneider will win it. He's a finalist. I had a vote in that category this year. We only each chapter in Major League Baseball has two voters in each chapter have a vote in each category. So it cycles around. Last year I was Rookie of the Year. One year I was MVP. This year my vote was for manager, and I found it a very difficult vote only because to me it was obvious. It was John Schneider, but I didn't want to be that guy that just made the homer vote. So I was actually looking for ways to not vote for him. I was looking for reasons to play.
That's
Schneider
not right,
second.
Longley.
No,
well,
I mean, I think it's responsible because
maybe, but you got to vote for who you think is the guy.
Which I did.
Yeah,
I did, and I mean, the vote, when the votes come out, you will see that I made the right decision. I may not have voted for the guy who won it, but I voted for the guy who we're talking about because I think he deserved it. My only point about saying how I went through that process, I would still, no matter what, I would vote for who I felt deserved it. But the fact that I tried to convince myself to look elsewhere and couldn't tells me how that there's no doubt. When you go from last to first, man, you go from 74 wins to 94 wins. The voting was done before the playoffs started, so you can't factor in him going to the World Series. But there's no doubt in my mind that he was the manager of the year, and not just based on results, based on how he went about it. I saw a guy who really grew into the role, especially over the last couple of years. He seemed to be able to much more deftly manage the pushes and the pulls, whether they are from the players in the clubhouse, to the many people in the front office and the baseball operations department, and that whole circle and how it all functions. John Schneider was in the middle of it, but John Schneider found a way to navigate it properly to keep all parties happy and to have the respect of all parties, so that GM Ross Atkins would respect John Schneider's decision-making, and the players could trust John Schneider's decision-making and realize that it wasn't entirely based on what the front office told him to do. So he really grew into that role, and I think he earned the respect of the players, and I think the results followed. That's a big part of the reason why the team had such a positive turnaround in 2025.
Do you think, there's no doubt in my mind he managed differently this year?
100%.
As you said, he bunted more.
Not even close.
It didn't even seem like the computer had much to do with anything. Was that just him maturing as a manager? Do you think that was a plan with the management team that I need to manage, and with the feel of the game? Do you think that's just maturity, or did they pull the reins off him, or take the reins off him, and let him go?
It was a bit of both. I mean, for sure he's matured some, but last year, there were a lot of pissed off players on that team after that 74 win season, and they didn't like the way that the lines of communications were handled between the front office and the players, and there was a reckoning. Guys like Kevin Gausman and Chris Bassett, they took their concerns to the front office and to Schneider, and they hashed it out. And the front office kind of understood that they had reached the point where they probably had to empower their manager more, and thus Schneider had a little bit more say and a little bit more power in terms of the day-to-day operations. And I think that once that happened, as I said earlier, the players in the clubhouse changed the way they looked at things. They changed the way they looked at the front office, and they respected their manager more. And once you start winning and that's happening, and there's that whole we're all in this together mindset that the team had, then it starts to pay off. Excuse me. Schneider was very proud of the fact that he did not have one team meeting all year. The only team meeting he had was after Game 7,
Mm-hmm.
and that was to thank the guys. And his point with that was there was a strong enough leadership group within that clubhouse that he didn't have to call meetings to manage
Mm-hmm.
the team like that. He had created such an environment, or helped create such an environment around the team where the players were, for the most part, running the show. And I think that's in baseball especially, that's the mark of a good manager. It's a 162 game season. It goes on for 6 months. You can't be in there rawing every day or every other day. You have to have a
Mm-hmm.
strong leadership group, and John Schneider made sure that happened.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of a long grind, you've been on the grind for a long time here, Longley. So I'll leave you with this. In your opinion, talking about guys like Bo and whether Hoffman will be the closer, in your opinion, if you could pinpoint something on this roster, where do you feel the Jays need to strengthen this roster the most? Leave Bo aside. Where do they need to go in terms of bringing in outside names that were not on the roster this year that can really help this team potentially get back to this type of level? I feel and have felt for a couple of years that it's in the bullpen.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, we saw some of the struggles later in throughout the season, really, there were some inconsistencies. Part of it was Jimmy Garcia being injured. Part of it was just some of the struggles with Hoffman. I think that's certainly one of the areas. And another area would be power. They need some more power. They need some more consistent power. They have the guy in Anthony Santander right there, but what's he going to be? We still don't know. And both Atkins and Shapiro today said that we need him to be better. We need him to be closer to the 40 home run guy that he was in Baltimore.
Need him to be healthy.
And then they said that the first thing we got to do is get him healthy, and then and go from there. So those are the things, and you got to see how the rotation shakes down too. But I think they'll be okay that way.
It's tough to say internal improvements this year.
No. I mean, you just hope for no internal regression.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing right there.
We don't want that.
And
we don't want it.
Ryan mentioned you've been on the go. How many days in a row, and how was the travel? Any good travel stories for us?
This is day 60 in a row, believe it or not, of writing,
60?
which is fine.
Okay.
That's what you do, and that's not a complaint. It's like
no.
It's when you get in a run like this, it's and the interest is so high in the stories and in the team. LA I love Dodger Stadium. It's a pretty cool environment there. So it was kind of cool to be there. We stayed up in Pasadena, so went around the Rose Bowl one day, and it was good. It was a good little run. A grind for sure, but pretty cool to see the Blue Jays in a World Series. I mean, I've covered World Series before, but not with the home team in it, and I've covered the Maple Leafs in playoff series too, but never all the way to the. And I've covered Stanley Cup Finals, but never with a home team in it. So that it takes on another level when you've got that situation, and it was pretty cool to be a part of it. Definitely a career highlight for sure.
So you were there when the
Absolutely.
Leafs blew it. You were there when the Jays blew it. And I must mention too that going into the top of the 9th inning in Game 7, I texted Ryan and Steve Sabrin, our buddy, and I just said, "I wish this was the Leafs." And then it all went downhill from there.
You know what? That's right. You
Oh,
did
yeah,
do
I
that.
did.
It's you.
I did.
It's you, dude.
I was thinking it was pretty safe, but boy, oh boy, we got disappointed.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks,
Tough
Rob.
one. Longley,
Okay,
thanks so much for doing this, man.
Let's
You're our guy, and we love the work you do, obviously. We commend you for it. What a run. You did a great job, and we're excited to have you back on, hopefully in a little bit, to talk about some big free agent signings.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. There'll definitely be some stuff to talk to by the time we get to December. That's for sure.
Absolutely, buddy. Thanks so much for doing this, eh?
All right, boys. Take it easy.
There he is, Rob Longley, longtime Blue Jays beat reporter, sports reporter. He's covered everything: the Olympics, Stanley Cups. Man,
Media.
that guy gets
Still
media.
does some media stuff too.
Still does media stuff too, and you can bet he's probably going to be involved with World Cup coverage coming up next year. That's going to be a lot of fun. He's the best, and I mean, there's very few guys as tapped in on the beat as Rob, and you know, like he said, tough one, but I think as we, you know, look forward as we exit from this countrywide abyss, I have to say that I respect and understand Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro a little bit more. I'm not saying that I'm an ardent supporter of everything that they've been about. No one is going to care about how fun this run was, how unexpected, how thrilling, with the pain set aside. No one is going to care about that unless this team and Ed Rogers and those two guys strengthen this roster. They just made $1 bajillion.
Oh, well, we went through it. Was it on the show? We went through it, or was it at home?
We were doing a bunch of crazy math.
But it was right math. The bottom line is it was right. It was correct. It was the amount of money these guys
now
made.
That's Ticketmaster, though. That was some of that was Ticketmaster fees.
Some of it was,
yeah,
but like
I understand what you mean.
Are set by the team, and that money does go to the team.
My point is, and I saw this today. I thought this was pretty relevant. You know, the Athletic Baseball put up their top 50 free agents, and there's your top 10 with Bo listed at 2, Kyle Tucker at number 1, Bregman, Schwarber, Framber Valdez, Dylan Cease, Pete Alonso. He was rumored to maybe be in play before he signed that deal that he opted out of this year. Bellinger, Suarez, and Tetsuya Amai, who's another great Japanese product, had a 1.92 ERA in the Nippon Professional.
Get him. That's the guy we need.
Tatsuya Amai. Yeah, you never know.
He must be great. No, there's a lot of good names on there. How many guys do you think the Jays will sign?
One, maybe. And honestly, one of these guys paired with signings to bolster the bullpen, particularly the velocity, or through trades, as Ross Atkins mentioned, that they are also going to be kickstarting tires on the trade market. If it's one of those guys plus some bullpen help, because ultimately I think that this roster, like the rotation is shaping up, assuming Savage can carry over this magic into the rest of his career, which is big shoes to fill, and like he's done it at every stage so far, which is incredible. I'm not concerned about the starting rotation. You got Lauer there too as a 5-6 guy, long relief, whatever. They need to bolster the weapons in this bullpen, and if they're serious about upgrading over Jeff Hoffman, who again, outside of one bad slider, had an incredible October. If they're serious about that, they better go do that, and they better have one of these names included here. And I'm talking about one of these names, Clarkey, outside of Bo. I'm talking about Bo and Bregman and or Alonso. How would that work? He's a first baseman. Play him as a DH. George Springer. I think that they're going to have to come to some ruthless decisions, including with a guy like Springer, who just had an incredible year.
He did.
I'm not expecting that to come back, and he's
37.
Yeah. So be ruthless and go, you know what? We're signing Pete Alonso to a 3-year deal, and he's the everyday DH, and we'll rest Vladdy and DH him when we need it. And George, you're probably going to be a sometimes DH guy, and you're going to have to play some right field here and there. That's the type of ruthless situation you have to get yourself into as a management team. When you lose, okay? We're not talking about a team that won. We're talking about a team that lost, that has to do something to ensure that they can have continued success. Is it Bregman? I don't know. That would certainly make you more offensively potent at third base power-wise. We're talking about Ernie Clement, who just broke the postseason hits record. There's not a lot of power there. I would happily accept one of Bregman, Alonso, or Kyle Tucker, who will, you know what, probably also be an LA Dodger. I'm sorry to say, but he's probably also going to be an LA Dodger. If they can get one of those three guys and then go out and get, I don't know, what are the Padres doing? Are they going to reload and keep Mason Miller? I would love for the Jays to get a Mason Miller. You want to be serious about hanging your nuts out there and getting a closer? Let's go get Mason Miller. Let's go get Alexis Diaz.
They need to get a closer.
Guy.
We were nervous
get a guy
about Hoffman
who can
all year.
Shut it down.
For sure.
And I love Jeff Hoffman. I was a big fan of the guy.
I don't love him, to be honest.
I understand
gives up too many homers.
He gave up a lot of homers. Yeah,
I was always worried that a home run was going to happen.
He'd cruise, and then give up a really nasty homer in the
And it's too bad because up to that home run, he had a great October.
He was having an amazing October,
it was like
dude.
Lights out.
I'm just saying, I cannot accept when a team does this and then goes, well, we have a budget and everything. No,
Rogers has to open the wallet.
Like
you said, they've made so much money. They have to open the wallet. Not only did they make money in ticket sales, just merch, but not only that, they own their own broadcast rights. They they must have made millions of dollars in advertising on those games.
I'm telling you right now,
incredible.
I will organize a pitchfork holding rally. If this team, if I hear the word budget from Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro one single time during this offseason, I will mentally collapse.
Mm-hmm.
I will drop into a black hole of nothingness because I cannot wrap my head around that type of logic.
I will not be able to either.
And Ticketmaster and all these other evil forces at will milked this fan base for bajillions of dollars during this run that the fan base was happy to do.
Exactly.
You better repay that faith and make this team better.
No doubt about it.
Because if that doesn't happen and they go, well, look at what this roster did last year, we're going to bring back the no, Ross. That can't happen.
But it's not Ross. I mean, Ross might say it, but it's not Ross, his call.
I don't care. Ross, Mark, Ed in particular.
Ed is the call. Ed's the guy.
No.
Eddie Rogers.
No.
Anyway.
Get the pen out and have the ink ready. One thing that did come down yesterday, I believe it was Wednesday on the 5th, Shane Bieber announcing he's opting into his $16 million option. And a lot of people were kind of confused how quickly, why he did it. And obviously he's coming off that Tommy John, but he says he loves it in Toronto. He's felt at home and he wants to go back in. And TSN was asking, is this the best starting rotation in baseball heading into next year? I don't know that it is, but I would put it in the top 3 or 4.
For sure. And if you can add Bassett, if Bassett comes back and gets in that rotation and
there's a guy that I'm a little leery of. 36.
I don't know.
I mean, if he becomes a bullpen long relief guy, I don't know that you want to go back to him being a starter. And remember,
we're not even good he was.
He was good as a relief pitcher. Yes, he was in the playoffs as a relief pitcher. Now, there's an elephant in the room named Jose Barrios.
Yes, there is.
Like, he's making almost $22 million. He's got, I believe, 2 years left on that deal. What's that relationship? What are they doing with him? Is he going to be a guy that becomes part of a package?
Yeah. I think he's
upgrade the bullpen.
Yeah.
You never know, right? I can't drop a scenario in my mind where he pitches for the Jays again. It's difficult for me to imagine that, Chris.
Yeah. And that's what worries me about, as I mentioned to Rob, about next year. We just saw how close this team came and how
agonizing,
how hard it is to win a championship and how long you have to play and how many games you have to play. And you see Trey Savage that kid had an unbelievable start to his career. I don't think as teams see this guy, they're gonna learn more about him. And yes, he will learn more about players, batters, and everything too. But I would love to see him become the new Roger Clemens of this team and just be overpowering and strike so many guys out and all that. But I'm worried it might not happen. I'm worried about a lot of things.
Well, we don't want him to be Alek Manoah and Ricky Romero, right?
Which we've seen. You're right. Those guys we've seen. We've seen what can happen with guys who we think
we want him to be Roy Halladay. We want him to be Roy Halladay.
I want to say too, that this last month has been an incredible journey, right? And
it really has.
You see like how the country came together, and like you watch that Oiler game when the Oilers were playing, and they're showing the Jays game on the board when the game was strange. On, and the announcer actually said, "The Blue Jays have won it. They've won the World Series." And then 3 seconds later goes, "Oh no, wait, he was out at home. He was out." And like the crowd's going nuts. Connor McDavid's sitting on the bench during a hockey game saying, "Yeah, I found myself watching the Jays game during the game."
Yeah,
unbelievable things, and how it brought people together, and how like I went to a lot of games, and it really brought it brought me closer to people, and spent some time down there with friends and family. You and Sabby came over to watch the 18-inning marathon here at my place. Just like it's such a game and a sport, and not that hockey isn't, but it just makes me love baseball. Like I really do love baseball. Like I never coached hockey. My kids never played hockey. They played softball. They played fast pitch. I coached for many, many years because I love the game. I just love the game. And when the Jays are good, I'm a fair weather Jays fan, no doubt about it. I am a Jays fan, but I'm not as I don't watch as much when they're losing.
Sure.
But I will always watch the World Series. Right? For the most part, I would watch World Series. I would watch, but what a World Series. Best one I've ever witnessed. Probably because my team was in it, but just how it brought, and I'm just speaking personally, friends and family together, and and getting out and seeing people. And I felt a real void driving home Sunday morning. Like I got to tell you, it wasn't fun. You know what I've been going through the past few months, and I became overwhelmed with emotion on my way home, thinking, this has occupied my time for the last month.
A good thing is over.
It's over. It's over.
And it's
now I got the Leafs.
Adjust to. You got the Leafs, and they're starting to play a little.
They are. Better. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. They haven't lost since the Jays lost the World Series.
They're starting to play a little better. The Raptors are on a win streak.
I talked to Paul Jones the other day about the Raps. So
Jonesy, we're gonna get Jonesy on at some point soon here to talk about.
I was talking to Jonesy a couple days ago, so it's all good there.
It's a crazy thing. And like, that's the thing, like hockey in this country is so big because it's embedded in our identity. We have teams that stretch across the nation. And so we all love hockey, but it does become segmented for people. People in Alberta don't give a rat's ass about how the Leafs are doing. They hate
the best way to compare it, Ryan, is Team Canada hockey. Like that's the best way to compare it.
That's the only real thing.
The Jays are no doubt Canada's team. And I remember the Expos were the only team. I'm dating myself, but I remember watching the Expos, Ellis Valentine and the crew, Timmy Raines and
I'm curious.
Wednesday and Saturday nights, the only days you could watch the Expos because it's the only games that were telecast. And they were Canada's team, no doubt about it.
And Larry Walker and all. Yeah, you do wonder with that new Expos doc that came out and what this country turned into during this run. It does bring up questions again of like, could the Expos ever return? Like the Tampa Bay Rays are a mess.
They are.
They're a mess down there.
They need like Montreal though. They can't play at the Big O.
They would need a building. But it does bring up a thing of like, geez, look what just happened over there. But
if you build it, they will come.
if you build it, yeah, I think a lot of owners forget that. A lot of them have probably never seen Field of Dreams because they don't actually care about baseball. A lot of them, they just it's a tax write-off. What a journey! What a journey we just went on, man. And it's so complicated when you see something like that happen and it doesn't. The end isn't there. It's a complicated thing. It's a good lesson in life too, really. I mean, like, bouncing back from struggle is a lot more character defining than, enjoying victories. And we want the victories, and the victories are fantastic. But I do ultimately believe that the core and the heartbeat of this team being Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the next 14 years bodes very well for this franchise getting back there somehow. But again, this front office has to double down. They paid that guy. They have to double down. They cannot just have a talismanic guy named Vladimir Guerrero Jr. be a guy on the team like Carlos Delgado was, and like Josh Donaldson turned into, and Roy Halladay really more than anybody. They cannot have this talismanic icon and nothing else around him for a majority of his career. They have to double, if not triple down on what we just saw. Internal improvement, yes, we'll remember it. Next year's slogan, double down.
Bo will come back if the Jays give him the most money.
He
will come back if the Jays give him the most money. And if he leaves, that's not a good sign, because that means they didn't want to pony up whatever the Dodgers or whoever might give him. They have to give it to him. He led the league in hits.
I think it's probably going to take something like 10-4. I think it's going to be a 10-4. I think that they're going to have to go 10-400 and maybe even 450, 480. I don't think you can pay him what you gave Vladdy. And I think that Bo should understand that. But it's going to take some serious cheddar here.
Look at the
and let's be honest here.
Look at the way he hits World Series with one knee.
With one knee, it was incredible. And he should be a part of this core going forward.
Yeah.
But we also have to realize that he's not a good defender.
He's not. That is put him at second.
I understand that. Does he want that though? I don't think he will. So, but if
they give him that kind of money, if they give him that kind of money, he'll probably be the largest paid second baseman in league history.
If they pay him that money, it will be to play shortstop. I'm very confident of that.
I get that, but that's not when the team is the best.
I understand. It'll be an interesting saga here. He's going to hit free agency. He's going to be on the market. Kyle Tucker's on the market. Schwarber. There's so many big names that are out there, and the Jays have to get at least one of them with Bo.
Right.
Spend this money, and you will make more. Ed, look what just happened to your wallet. That will happen over and over. If you keep this team competitive, don't let the Yankees pass you. Don't let the Orioles get hot with that young group and pass you. Don't let the Red Sox suddenly spend money and pass you. You be the Kings. Open it up. Double down. That's the slogan for next year. We appreciate everybody watching the show. We love it. Available on all your favorite podcast apps. Friday nights, just before Owen Sound Attack Hockey for our Georgian Bay viewers. In London as well, you can watch. You can find us on YouTube, all over social media at Instigating Pod. We really, really appreciate it. Clarkey, love having our boy Rob Longley on. Follow him as well on social media. Read his stuff in the Sun. One of the best out there. Clarkey, what a journey, brother. It was a lot of fun. We'll come back next year. It's double down.
Double down. Yeah, and again, great run. Thanks. I honestly want to say thanks to the Blue Jays, because they proved me wrong. They proved a lot of people wrong. But boy, it was fun to watch them this year, and it brought people together, and that's the best part about it.
Absolutely, man. Well said. All right, we will be back next week with a much more energetic Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. We'll see you then.